Hey everybody, welcome back to Ginger Hacker. And today on the channel, I'm very excited to have a good friend and now colleague I've gotten to meet here while I've been at my Warrant Officer Basic Course here in the beautiful of Augusta, Georgia on Fort Eisenhower. I know a few folks have asked on the channel to talk and get to meet a red teamer, and guess what? I found one. And super excited to introduce everybody to Trent Darrow, who is with Synack. And Trent, I'm going to pass it to you.
Yeah, how's it going, Eddie? I appreciate you bringing me on. Glad that Wobik's, getting to the end. Yeah, no, I just started with Synack. So far, it's been a great company. Super happy with them. They hired me on right before Wobik, just so I could utilize their military leave. So kudos to them.
Awesome.
Yeah, before that, I worked for DOJ doing some pen testing. I was a contractor, and then before that, I worked for a CPA firm. That kind of tacked on pen testing as a side service, to get my start in the job. And I guess prior to that, network engineer, and and then years and years of help desk fun.
Lovely help desk. I am going to point at this a little bit. So in the military, have you always been in cyber?
No, so I started out in the infantry because that sounds cool when you're 17. You watch too much Black Hawk Down. Started out in the infantry, and I missed the Afghanistan deployment, so I was the only guy in the platoon without a deployment patch. And one of the field artillery units was looking for volunteers, and I got selected. And they're like, "Yeah, you're gonna go learn HIMARS now."
Nice.
I didn't even know what the heck HIMARS was. I had to Google it. Then I learned it was pretty cool because I had air conditioning and heat, and I didn't have to walk anywhere. I did that for quite a few years, bounced around, moved to Texas, went over with a traditional cannon artillery, but, kind of tasked org as infantry platoon. Got back, there were, talks of putting us on the border immediately, so I bounced out of there and went back to Michigan and sat in HIMARS for just under a year before my warrant packet got accepted. So I don't have traditional any prior to any cyber, signal MI experience in the Army.
Yeah, but it's cool. I think, and we'll probably get into it later down the road. But like your path of how you kind of were able to move out of infantry to get into cyber is, I think, it's a fascinating story. But no, awesome, Trent. Well, we're gonna go ahead and get started. We ask everyone pretty close to the 5 similar questions as everyone comes on the channel. So let's go ahead and start with question number 1. Could you share your journey in becoming a penetration tester in cybersecurity, and was there any specific moment or event that sparked your interest in this field?
Yeah, so I won't go. Like I did help desk when I was in college, even though I was going for athletic training, because I blew up my shoulder in basic. I couldn't get any help because that was an active duty, and then civilians wouldn't pay for it. But I also was broke college kid with no insurance.
Yeah.
And then eventually, enough of that, and I was like, oh, this is stupid, putting in way too many hours for terrible money. Let's just go computer networking, since, I grew up around computers. And that was, I did a year of that, and I got deployed, then finished up my degree at WGU afterwards. So did that, worked at, a couple different, worked at DLA help desk, the VA help desk in Saginaw.
Nice.
Moved to Texas and got a job working at Dell. I was supposed to be working on Palo Altos. Didn't touch one in 4 months that I was there. So I got a job offer for a network engineer position at Fort Hood as a contractor. So I took that and did that for a few years.
Nice.
And then when I was overseas in the last one, I had the chance to use the credentialing assistance money to take the GPEN, the 560 course from SANS.
Awesome.
Which ultimately, and then another person on the CPT worked at that company, so he was able to put in a referral, and that's what kind of landed me in my first pen test position.
Very cool, man. Yeah, I've talked to a few folks in the military as well, like wanting to kind of move into CPTs and kind of ask, like, yeah, I don't know how I need to get into it. I'm like, Army Cool and tuition reimbursement and some of that stuff offers getting us into some of those certifications, depending on I know sometimes they say it's specifically MOS specific. I don't believe it is, and anyone can get into those courses if their commanders are willing and approving to sign off the paperwork to get them into those.
Yeah, I mean, I was in a cannon battalion when I took GPEN, so that's hardly job specific for field artillery.
No, definitely. And yeah, GPen is not an easy course. So I mean, like to get into that and kind of like to move up from there is pretty fantastic, man. So that's awesome. Congrats.
Hmm. Yeah.
Well, moving down the line, what does a typical day look like as a pen tester? And could you walk us through some of the systems you test or challenges you will face when identifying vulnerabilities?
Yeah, kind of overview is, you wake up and get your coffee and get the brain juices going and check whatever emails and see what clients yelling at you today. Um, then look at, your previous day's notes, or if you're starting the engagement, look over make sure you have the list of subnets, do not touch stuff, any or network architecture stuff, um, resume scanning, resume, trying to find vulns, exploit things, do whatever, communication with client. Usually there's at least 1 to 2 meetings popped in there somewhere.
Yeah.
Then the end of the week or end of the engagement, it's the worst part of the job and doing the report,
When you're doing these tests and stuff, is it usually small teams? Is it sometimes individually done? Is it just depending on how big the company is? It's asking for the test to be completed.
Yeah, so I've done kind of both, right? So I at the first job, it was a lot of individual, one pen tester work. Someone might hit external or something, but there's no collaboration really. Um, but I've also been on engagements where we've had, 2 testers there, working in tandem, both on internal, where multiple people, this on a web app, this guy will take the thick client, this guy will take the, web app, he'll hit the APIs, So I've kind of had it all. Don't be afraid to do your own pen tests because you will. But you'll always have the other people to lean on for help.
Do you find it sometimes easier when you're doing something solo compared to as a team, as you're kind of allowed to check your own things and kind of go down the process, or do you find it a little bit more convenient when you have a team working on like those kind of tests?
So it's good in the idea of you don't know everything. You'll never know anything or everything, right?
Yeah.
So it's really nice to have ideas to bounce off of, especially if you're hitting a wall. Sometimes it can be a little bit difficult because you truly have to trust the other person's looked at everything on the system and that they or maybe hopefully they were courteous enough to say, hey, I found this, I don't know shit about it, do you want to take a look at it? But sometimes it's nice because you can divide up the tasks. You can sit there and focus on trying to pwn Active Directory, and the other guy could try and do passive recon or try and get the web app stuff going, hit the servers, try and get data exfiltration going. So it's got its pros and its cons. I would say it really depends on the size and scope of the test.
Okay. No, and that makes sense. I think you made a good point of it. It's like just communication, I guess. Like, hey, like I found this, and like if there's no communication going across that team, it's just like there's that fear of like, am I now doubling work? Has this already been discovered? Yeah. So that totally tracks and makes sense. So that's outstanding, man. For someone aspiring to become a penetration tester in 2024, what technical skills, certifications, or experience would you recommend on focusing on?
Yeah. Obviously, everyone wants to just jump in and hack, right? That's the fun thing. But knowing how Active Directory works, knowing how group policies are set up, knowing kind of the core sysadmin, some light level web developer stuff, knowing how SQL works, knowing some basic. You have to know a little bit of it into everything, and then be able to dive in deep. At a moment's notice on something, and be able to do research. Being able to do research is key.
Yeah.
And I think it's starting to come up more now, but the soft skills, and it's hard to train on those.
Yeah.
I think that people always suggest going to master class and all this, and it is difficult to train on. I think years of being an NCO helped me. So I wasn't much of a talker prior to.
It's
you know,
funny.
and then
Oh yeah, go ahead.
yeah, doing working for Cyber, teaching some networking courses, that kind of helped me learn a little bit, and then the first job, I mean, it was one pen test a week with multiple client meetings in there every single week, or every there's Trace, I don't know how many meetings. It was awful, but you had to learn how to talk tactfully and had the, I don't want to say education level, the technical ability of the person, right? You're not going to go
Yeah,
talk to, not necessarily the C-suite, but the whatever manager,
knowing your
and try and
audience.
dive in deep. Yeah. Whereas security engineer hops on. Okay, man. Here's the if you look at this parameter, you know. So yeah, I think and getting everyone always wants OSCP. It's a good cert. Um, I hate to say I don't think it's the best, but I know that for I can't the PNPT
Okay, with
by the
Heath
site we went
Adams.
for. Yeah,
Okay.
I know a lot of people have talked pretty highly on that one. Being especially a little bit more realistic sometimes than OSCP. And it's also not $2,000.
Yeah.
So
That's one thing I talk
it's
about on my channel is like getting into cybersecurity on a budget. So, and
yeah.
it's just like you said, like the soft skills and when talking to people, and that's I think coming in as a police officer when I moved out of law enforcement, coming into IT, one of the things I found the most easiest to do was to talk to people. That was my job back when I
Mhm.
worked as a cop. And that's what a lot of my
Yeah.
managers and my teams have liked because you get into IT roles and you get a lot of recluses they're great
Yeah.
gurus, they're technical schmees, but they hate talking to people. So I mean, like
Hmm.
I think just like you said, like having those soft skills and like jack of all trades and understanding how an environment works, understanding basic network topography and understanding how to navigate through a network, understanding how
Hmm.
Active Directory runs, but then also knowing your audience. Like, hey, am I talking to running back to help desk days? Am I talking to some teller at a bank that just runs people through a normal account every day that doesn't understand IT?
Right.
Or am I talking
They
to a
just know
dev?
it's not popping up.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like my account just says I can't. My password's not correct. I'm like, okay, is your cap lock on? Oh, it's like, yeah.
Yeah. Oh
So,
yeah. I've gone through some hardcore troubleshooting before, and then found out they had no power in their house,
hey, is your
but they're
computer
off a
running?
laptop. So,
No.
well, they had a laptop, so he didn't even think to check it. You know.
Yeah, and help desk is it's so funny, but everyone I get to talk to on this channel, it's like there's always a help desk memory or like a help desk, like, oh yeah, I worked help desk,
Yeah.
and that time helped me out a lot with talking to people and
Hmm.
having to troubleshoot, and it's just you think of then you start to reminisce, like, oh my god, man, there's so many people just not talking to. I'm like, man, like they weren't even in their email browser when I was like trying to help them out with like an email question. Like, oh, like, so I can't see. Well, I can't even. I'm like, are you in your? Oh,
Yeah.
I'm not even in Outlook. I'm like, why? Anyway.
Yeah. Yeah. I remember there's one of the professors, dude is smart as hell in his profession, but if he called, I was just like, all right, man, I'll be up there in 5 minutes. I'll be on my way. Like I'm not even trying to
Like, it'll be
talk you through
faster
this
for me
one.
to just meet you there, and we'll get this squared away.
Yeah,
No, too funny,
yeah.
man. So, well, that's awesome, and that kind of leads us into our next question. So, the cybersecurity landscape changes rapidly. How do you stay up to
Mhm.
date on the latest penetration testing tools, techniques, threat vectors, and are there any go-to resources that you practice or you particularly rely on?
Um, I know Twitter used to be, or X used to be, kind of the great source of information, and that had a really good infosec community, and there's still a couple hanging around. Um, that was a good resource. Having a community. There's man, I'm trying to get the Discord. Let me see, pull it up. There's one that was in that Republic of Hackers. That was
Oh,
in that
okay.
one. That helped me out. They there's always someone doing a CTF. People watching, and if they get stuck, they're like, hey, try this, try that. So that's a really good resource, and trying to find, that you can sign up for the SANS News Bites, and where they do the different vulnerabilities. What is it? The risk? I don't know, something. There's two different newsletters they send out, once a week or so. That has, usually some pretty good information. Checking the Microsoft bulletins where they, have good old Patch Tuesday.
Yep.
Um, you know, the news is always going to have the biggest, scariest vulnerability, but for pen testing most time, unless you're on an engagement with that, you're probably not going to be able to use it because they're going to patch the hell out of it within a couple days. So if you can keep an eye on, if you want to look at some write-ups, bug bounties, the write-ups, you can find the ones that are open, on BugCrowd or HackerOne.
Yep.
Different blogs people do for their CVEs. Yeah, there's a lot of ways to get the news now.
Yeah, I know.
I
know CrowdStrike has a decent threat letter they do. Mandiant, I think, also has one that kicks one out every now and then. Oh man, Rapid7, I think, actually has one too. I may be wrong on that one, but yeah, no, man. I mean, like, it's funny that people say, like, oh yeah, I want to get into IT and cyber, and I'm like, cool, man. I hope you're ready to learn, because I mean, you're gonna constantly be learning and reading, and you're gonna be looking up a lot of stuff that you're not gonna understand and know, and they're gonna ask you.
Cyber is not for the people that want to accept the status quo.
Yeah.
That just want to do their job and move on, go work in cloud or something. It's you always got to be learning. There's always more stuff to learn, which is, I love it. It's great.
It's funny. It's funny because when I was going through college, I'm like, man, I hate school. I never want to get done with school. Like, I'm so ready to be done. Got my bachelor's. I'm like, sweet, I'm done. Don't ever go back. Then started going into IT. I'm like, okay, well, I need to spruce up my resume a little bit and now get a degree that matches what I'm trying to do. So I went back and got a master's. It wasn't as hard now that I actually wanted to go to school and learn, and I just knew that I'm like, hey, I need to understand this. I have to have a better grounding and at least a educational knowledge of what this needs to happen with, and then the skill sets and the technical skills will kind of fall onto each other as I kind of get more and more further down the pipeline of whatever track I want to get into. But yeah, man, education is the spear of what's going to be continuously going on and changing with environments, cloud, AI, drastically in the next, I think, 5-10 years. So yeah, when people say, I want to get into IT, I'm like, cool, man, you're going to be a continuous student and just understand it. So
in one way or another, you're always going to be learning.
Nice, man. Well, that brings us to our last question, which we might have a few more questions. I think I may try to pick your brain before we bounce. But are there any professional authors or ethical hackers in the cybersecurity or penetration testing community that have influenced you or approached you on that craft, or kind of help you shape kind of like how you became who you are during your time kind of growing through this career field?
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely people that I really enjoyed reading their write-ups, and I love watching IPSEC videos on Hack the Box and his other CTFs he does, because you feel stupid after watching them sometimes.
That's all that happened. Oh, that's what I had to do.
Yeah, if you struggled on that machine for 6 hours, and you're like, come on, man. I love his videos. Jason Haddix is phenomenal with web stuff. I love watching his stuff. The HomSec has some great web stuff. I think when you talk about shaping, I think it would actually probably go back. So I was on the cyber team for a short stint, but I was only there for, I don't know, 8 to 10 months or something like that, but never got MOS qualified, and the training pipeline back then was pretty bad.
Gotcha.
Team. And I remember, it was December 2018 when we were doing a CTF with, Latvia and, a bunch of our nations in the Air Force. And God, I didn't know what the hell I was doing. I remember the captain being like, hey, enumerate the services, check this out, check that. I'm like, I like lean over to one of the guys and like, yo, what does enumerate mean? What's he talking about? I didn't have a damn clue. I just had Armitage up and just trying to send everything. I'm like, come on, what are these? And like after that, I talked about it, or I thought it was, doing next stuff interested me, and I thought it was fun. Who doesn't want to be a hacker? Just never thought I'd be able to do it. And one of the chiefs was like, hey man, like, let's go do OSCP. We got a voucher for it. That'd be cool. I was like, oh yeah, cool, man. That sounds legit. And then like this was pre them changing it to include Active Directory back when it was like this stupid old school, every time you ask a question, all you're gonna get is try harder, which there's some validity in that, but like, okay. Anyway, that kicked my ass, and but it definitely sparked the interest, right? So I was just like, wow, that was really fun, and I hadn't been like engaged on something for that long and been able to like focus on something and just being like just stuck on something and like thoroughly enjoyed it, and like it pissed me off and I loved it, and like it was just super fun. And that was like I needed to try and figure out how to make this work.
Yeah, well, that actually leads. I think this is my last question I have, and I'll ask you my wild question I ask everyone at the end of every day. Imposter syndrome is very much a real thing when it comes to IT and cybersecurity. Are there days, or is there anything that you like to do, like if you ever hit a wall or kind of start to like, when that hits your kind of like atmosphere, like you run into like a pen test or maybe a certain environment where you're kind of like, oh man, am I doing something wrong? Do I know what I'm doing? How do you kind of combat that and kind of like just reassure yourself like, hey, I'm doing my job, I'm doing a good job? And how would you recommend, or maybe would be your advice for other folks that kind of hit that wall sometimes?
Yeah, because it definitely happens. When you get in the field, you'll have imposter syndrome the whole time.
Not wrong at all.
Because you're going to see always someone else with some elite hacks or some cool stuff. Like I said, there's always more to learn. You're going to know stuff that the other person doesn't. There's so many different fields in pen testing too. It's an ever expanding. It's really having a network that's enjoyable. But to combat it, I mean, I had one the other day that was a web app that like, I got nothing on it. At least nothing juicy. I think there's like some SSL, bull crap, but whatever. It was an internal web app, but yeah, it sucks. You kind of sit there and you're just like, man, do I suck at this? Like, you just try and forget about it and just move on. At least that's what I do. Or, maybe go do a CTF or something, go hit an easy box and hack the box. Yeah, I still can do this.
Boom, 100%. There's only one question, but I passed.
Yeah. Yeah, because you definitely have days, and sometimes I'll go back and try to research that topic some more or something. If something beats me and I think I might have had something, but I just ran out of time, or I couldn't complete the chain. Sometimes I'll just research a bit more, see if I can maybe replicate it, in an environment.
No, good calls.
Sometimes it doesn't work, but no, you still learn.
Yeah, no, definitely. I mean, like, there's plenty of times I hit walls, more than others maybe, but who knows? But I mean, yeah, just like you said, man, like taking that step back, reevaluating a situation, taking a break from it, going to maybe, if you have to, ask a colleague or maybe another person, like, to get that second look on it too, even. But yeah, man, I think that's a great way. He said, hey, it's going to happen. It's part of the nature of the beast. I think you just got to really step up to it when it happens, be able to step back, reset, and just kind of re-hit that challenge again, whether it's a challenge, whether it's work, whether it's a certification test, whether it's applying for job applications and getting that rejection letter, which happens. I mean, you just got to kind of bounce off it.
The people moving into pen testing, man, I'll tell you, we will get a lot of rejection letters. You will get a lot, especially in the world of remote, because they can, kind of, look for the best candidate, so you'll get a lot of rejection letters. A lot of them, you don't even get to the interview, just because, whatever HR automated system they got doesn't like the way you worded something.
Yep. Fine print, small white box, bottom corner.
Yeah. And you find, some places that just have really goofy, like I had one place that denied me, and I was just trying to get out of DOJ. They're offering a good chunk of money, and like they wanted like CEH and like 2 years of experience. And, I had the OSEP and like OSCP, GPEN, GWAPs, all this shit, and like got denied.
You're missing your CEH, sir. I'm sorry, but you don't qualify.
Yeah, and for the love of God, if you're going pen testing, don't waste your money on EC Council or CEH. Don't do it. Go get a real cert.
Yeah. But hey, man, I appreciate you so much, Trent, for popping on the channel. I have one last question for you. What you've been doing for fun on the side when you're unplugged from the cyber world? Any fun games you've been playing? Anything you've been doing, just kind of unwind and kind of relax?
Chilling with the family. Just Stalker 2 just came out, so
Nice,
playing
nice.
that.
Some
Otherwise,
good jumps, I'm sure.
Yeah, just a few. Just a few. I had to lower the difficulty.
Turn all the lights on, blinds are open,
Yeah.
my closet's open, so I know
Yeah.
when no one's in there. Like, okay, we can turn the game on.
Yeah, that just came out. Was playing a bit of Stardew Valley before that. I finally picked that up. It's only been out forever, but it's like $7.50 on Steam, so I figured I'd probably give it a shot. Just kind of
anything below $10 I can add to my Steam library. It's usually a quick grab, so that's a solid grab.
Yeah, and I think Delta Force, the new free to play big multiplayer map games, is coming out soon.
Heck yeah, man.
Played the beta on that a month ago, and that was a ton of fun. So excited to play that.
Awesome, man. Well, hey, dude, thank you guys so much for sticking around. If you've been here so long on the channel and on the video, like, subscribe, please follow. And Trent, thank you so much for coming on this channel and taking some time out of your night. You do get to grab some awesome, cool Ginger Hacker swag. So choose your selection, and I'll make sure that gets sent off to your house as a huge thank you for coming on. And yeah, everybody, please drop some questions in the comments if you have any questions for Trent. I'll link up with him and see if he's willing to drop his profile and LinkedIn stuff in the comments and link below. And yeah, everyone, I will see you guys on the next video. Thanks so much for staying tuned and sticking around. Catch you on the next video.